Hey, how's it going? Pardon me. So, today I'm going to talk about evil in another context. So, this will be number 2 in my triptych series. And I'm going to talk about the show again, but this time I'm actually going to focus on the show. So, since this is number 2, there was a number 1. And that was a text piece, which I will link in the information box. I'm sorry. I'm getting like all kinds of like glare or something. And it's making it real hard to see. But that's par for the course because this is, well, it's only the 3rd attempt, but the previous 2 were really messed up. So, like, I'm not in the usual room that I'm in because I don't know. The roof's been leaking, so it's like it's wet everywhere. I don't want to go in there and do this. And then, yeah. Anyway, so finally got it set up. I hope that the board is legible for you. I will. Here, let me just move it a little bit closer for anybody who can't see it well enough, and get your information there now. Okay, back to me. No, back to the show. Oh, I forgot. Hold on. Yeah. So, in the written piece, I talked about evil, and the show was like kind of peripheral to what I was saying. So, the show, there's the cast list. It's headed by Mike Coulter, who I know from Netflix's Luke Cage show, where he was muscled up 2,000. He looks good, I mean, that's not really my thing. Like, the big muscles kind of are not my thing. But he's got such a sweet presence, there's just something about him that exudes, like, you want to hug the guy. So, that's just my perception, of course, but I don't think it's mine alone. I think he's well liked in the world. So anyway, that's where I know him from. I'm sure he's done other stuff, and I just didn't notice it before. And he plays a novice priest, and he has, I'm sure they all do have, like, a bunch of questions about, like, what are you leaving behind, and what are you going to get out of doing the priest thing instead of all the things you left behind, like, marriages, relationships with the opposite sex, regular stuff. And he's got tests that happen to him, like we all do, but his faith is tested, his chastity is stretched, like, to the limit, and, but he, so far stands his ground and is holding on, but, like, the church, I think, I used to be surprised when I'd watch a ghost show and then, like, the people would go to some old church building or something, like a convent that was abandoned or whatever it was. There's like some holy clerical building that was no longer in use, and then it's haunted, and a lot of them were like cursed or something. They were, well, evil. They seemed to have like demonic presences, and I think that this show illustrates something that it wasn't really clear to me before, and I thought that, like, the clerical community would be pretty much immune to it, but really, if you think about it, and when I say you, I mean me, if you think about it, they're not relenting to desires, so you got all kinds of buildup from the not doing. I can't specify because I don't give myself that type of restriction. But it's bad enough when you are allowing yourself to do it. When you want to do it, when you're free to do it, it's like a fuster clock, man. Like, love is not easy. Friendship is not easy. So they would have that, like a regular person that hadn't taken any vows of chastity or silence or anything like that. But then they're not able to even, I don't know if they can think about it. I don't know how they can not think about it, but I mean, just the constant inner struggle is what it seems like it would be for me. That's why I haven't tried to like become a nun or something, is I don't want to restrict myself that way. I mean, I feel like it would just do bad things to my mind, which is kind of like what attracts evil. So if you have like a whole structure filled with people that are constantly in a spiritual battle, basically with themselves, that, from what I've gathered, attracts evil, like the demonic type and all of that. So you get to know the cast in season 1, which I talk about in the text piece I'm going to link. I talk about the first series, and that's the context that I'm talking about the show in. Now, I want to talk about, and that was on CBS, and then it moved to Paramount Plus. And so I just finished the second season, and it's so much better for the obvious reasons, because, like, here, let me give you an example. If you saw something scary, like in your house or something, which I have, and like say the first couple of times your response is, what the fuck? Like that just comes flying out. And if you watch a ghost show, you'll see they will be saying such, and it'll get bleeped. Like it's just a reflex. Like I can't believe, if I want to say everyone does it, I'm sure everyone does it. I don't know how they're able not to. Like, holy fiddlesticks, whatever. You have a excited exclamation. You have a reaction. So that's there, and that's good. That adds more texture to the show and makes it better for me to like latch on to and get all lost in. But I must interrupt myself here to say that I don't mistake it with reality. I understand that I'm watching a fiction. It's a teleplay. It's not real. I understand that. But I like to get drawn in as much as possible. I like to be like transported away. That's why I watch so much stuff. Not that my life is terrible, but it takes place in one place, so the opportunity to go other places, the options are kind of limited, so it's the watching for me. So anyway, beyond the natural reactions that they're able to have on Paramount Plus, the whole story got, like, I guess, scarier on a whole new level. I gotta say, in the first season, watching it on, like, broadcast television, I was surprised at the sort of frank sexual nature of the visitations from the evil entities, because that all starts like right away in the first show. The first season, they do not mess around. They get right into it, which is a good thing. That's what you want. So you got to see how I don't even know what the FX people on the show decide what the demons look like. And they usually take a human shape, like head, limbs, torso, digits, like humanoid. But, they don't look like that completely. Like their whole outer wrapping is like all messed up. So you got to see that in the first season, and that was like legit, right? So now in the second season on Paramount Plus, along with the cursing, it seems like they can go a lot further with the themes and the way that they did it is very clever, I thought. It's like the story is simultaneously shown to you, but it's also as if it's connected with a book that they keep showing, and a book that's in the show. And they'll show it in, I'm not sure what to call this portion of the show, but it's kind of like between the action, so sort of an interlude kind of thing. I know that's not the right word. If it was a song, it would be a musical break. So they have the book, and it'll start like chapters. Like each episode will be a chapter, or like the chapter will have sub-chapters within the show. But at the start, the book will show up, and the book has printing on it, and it'll say, I forget the title, but it's basically devils on one side and angels on the other, and it's sort of like a lore book, a reference book. I'm not real sure. Maybe I need to watch the second season again. But it's something along the lines of a Necronomicon, I think. So one of those spooky book, and the sort of theme of each episode will be based on whether it's angels or demon, like whichever side the book is showing. And the demons, they don't look that different from the first season, but they can say a lot more filthy stuff, and not necessarily sexual, but you can't like really break down evil to its constituent parts for children, because there's a lot of stuff that you need to be older before you're introduced to it, or else you won't understand it right and it'll screw you up. So, I mean, it's good the way they do it on broadcast television, although I don't know what's stopping a kid from clicking onto your Paramount Plus on whatever device you got. Well, anyway, that's neither here nor there. One of the hooks I thought was really good in the show was the evil is always coming after Dr. Bouchard's kids. And Dr. Bouchard is a psychiatrist, I always get those mixed up. She's a shrink of some kind. And she's on a team with Father Acosta and Ben Shakir, who I'll be talking about here next. And they go investigate claims of people thinking that there's a possession or oppression or other type of paranormal like upset in their home. And they have like they make a team of investigators to go investigate to see if they're real, or if it's a psychological disorder, or it's a game or a trick, because that is the third member's sort of bailiwick, Ben Shakir, played by Asif Manvi, who I know from Jon Stewart's version of The Daily Show and his stand-up, and then his many, many appearances on Law & Order. And in the show, he plays a skeptic, and he's like a tech guy. He's cyber savvy, and he knows about like mythology and like ghost stuff and demonology. And I don't know if he knows it, or it's just sort of like he's good at finding that information. You can make that determination yourself, but that's like the role that he plays in the trio. So that's kind of their deal, and they're working on the side of the light and not evil, which also makes them, I would think, very attractive for evil. And then they all, at some point, have to come face to face with it in some way. Like either it's jumping them and like messing with their perceptions and making them like not be able to think straight and not be able to know they're not thinking straight. There's like, I guess, a lot of different ways that something that wants to overtake you can do that. So it could be like directly from the entity itself, or they could affect other people to mess with you, and like all of that stuff is demonstrated in the show. So Another great thing they did was Dr. Bouchard and her husband Andy, the mountain climber, have 4 daughters. And if you watch like ghost shows and paranormal shows like I do, you learn that certain things happen in those situations. And well, evil is basically just always looking for somebody to glom onto and take advantage of and use to their own needs. And so young people, especially young girls, I guess, because that has been the trend in the shows, something about their age, and I guess their young femaleness, is very attractive to the evil entity, to the demon. Or, I mean, just like in life, like there's some pretty icky people that like can't sniffing around or stop looking at young girls, or worse. So I guess that exists in both worlds, like this one and the evil one. But the thing about the girls is that they kind of know what's going on. Like, they are naive and they do silly, kind of dangerous mistakes sometimes. But then they got, Ben, Shakir, and their mom and Father Acosta and like their dad on their side backing them up, so they are not like out in the wild completely unprotected, if that makes sense. And they're clever. Like, they come up with the best ways to foil evil, which evil incarnate is actually Leland Townsend, played by Michael Emerson, who you will know from Lost and, well, a bunch of other shows. I was just going to say he was on something that I was just totally into watching, and they took him out and flew out of my head. So maybe I'll add some details in the information box. But Michael Emerson, like, if you haven't seen his face and you watch television, then you need to pay attention, because he has been around for a long time too, and I didn't know his name until he gained prominence, basically. But he's excellent at playing a sneaky, scary, creepy little guy. Oh, Person of Interest. That was the CBS show with Jim Caviezel and Taraji Henson. Look it up. I'm not going to try to explain it or I'll lose track of what I'm thinking about. It was great, though. I really miss it. So, he is basically evil incarnate. He is the agent of evil. He is like himself. He's like willing, but he'll also be like completely overtaken by a bigger and scarier force. You'll see it come and go. Another thing that you got to wonder if that's not actually happening to people on this side of the screen in your life, And so, here's another hook that I thought was really cool. Well, there's a couple more. So the next one that I thought was like just really excellent, like just a great twist. So the mother of Dr. Bouchard, what the heck's her name? Shoot, hold on. Oh, wait, that's right here. Her name is Cheryl. So, Cheryl had been living with the family, and she meets Michael, and he completely takes advantage of her and is just using her to get at her daughter for a while and her daughter's daughters, the grandkids. But somewhere along the line, she becomes aware of all this and knows what the guy is trying to do to her daughter, which is sabotage her life, her career, her marriage. If he could, he would kill her, I think. I know he's wanted to a couple of times. So, he ends up, though, getting hooked up with Cheryl. And they go out for a while, but I don't think I think it ends up just kind of fizzling out. I don't remember seeing a specific, severing of the relationship. But he is like the devil's minion, so he's everywhere. He's like in the church, posing to be, of course, someone he's not. And he also has this business that's like a social platform, social media platform. And it's all about clicks and likes and, it's a social media platform. And as we know, they can really influence people, and it could not be good. And again, it's young girls and young people that those things mess with the most because they have the least defense of them. They're young and they haven't had a lifetime of warding crap off. So at the company, like everyone works there under Leland, and they know that it's like the devil's workshop, like literally. And they have meetings about how to influence people to do what kind of bad thing to self-sabotage. And so Cheryl wants to get a job there, and she at this point knows that Leland is basically the devil and is against her family, her immediate family. That blows my mind. How can she just give it up? I don't get it. Anyway, she needs a job, so she gets a job at the place at Michael's place, and it's not his. He's obviously below someone else because he just is. It's in the script. What do you want from me? But he's above her, and he has her in there working under these people, and he's threatening her that they're going to be watching her, and she better do this and that and the other thing. So I'm thinking their relationship didn't end on a good note. He's kind of resentful, and but she takes the job, and I guess she's possessed because she doesn't know that she's like eventually going to be hurting not only just her family but a lot of other people. Hey, that is crazy, but that's, I don't know. Maybe it's not that different from true life either, because we do some crazy, stupid shit sometimes. Okay, and so what was the last thing? I don't think this is what I was going to say, but I just remembered this. It did something, the evil. I think, I just watched the shows, and I know I have an attention problem, but I don't think there was like a specific like head demon that was named over Leland Townsend. I could very well be wrong. It happens all the time, being wrong, so maybe. But anyway, the father is usually gone in this show, like overseas somewhere doing some kind of mountain climbing thing. And in the beginning of season 2, he comes back, and it's like, yay, you're home, you're finally going to be here, you're going to do something else, and we're all going to be together. And then Leland, being the devil, decides that for him to be most effective at getting rid of like Cheryl, probably Kristen, and getting to the girls, and then like doing whatever it is that he wants to do as Mr. Evil to them, or make them minions, whatever it is. I learned from watching all the ghost shows that that is a tactic that evil will use. They'll like divide the family, and if the father, like in the show, I guess he's the man, so he's like the head of the house or whatever, but he's never there. It's usually Kristen running it, so that's a bunch of baloney. But anyway, they figure remove this strong father figure from the picture, and then everybody will be weaker, and it'll be easier for evil to attack. And that's what they do. They get him out, and he thinks I thought he went there. Oh, sorry, I'm spoiling. Well, they take him away for a while, but he ends up coming back. And I think he ends up being okay. I don't want to say more because oh, shoot, I forgot to put on my thing about the spoilers. Here, hold on 1 second and I'll do that. There we are. Now I don't have to talk about it. Spoilers are going to happen, but I will stop myself. So, I wanted to say a little more about Evil, though, and not just the show. And it's It's about what the perception of evil is. So I have more to say about that, and I'm going to do a third part of this sort of series. But I want to talk about like what the perception of evil is. And I'll start with my perception. Like, I will be watching something like one of the shows that we women love so much, the true crime shows, and there will be some like total murderer guy or whatever, and like he'll go to court, and the family will see them, and they will have done horrible things like a Ted Bundy, like, you know, taking your loved one and like basically disassembling them, like raping them, maybe stalking them first for a while, just messing with them and scaring them, and then like capturing them and doing terrible things like raping them or like killing them and taking them apart and, you know, eating, like doing a Dahmer on them and keeping trophies and just being all around creepy, basically. And that is what we call evil. I'm pretty sure we can all agree that people think that's evil. And then the person will get arrested if we're lucky, and they'll go to court, and the family will see them, and the family will describe them as like, they just look evil. They just are evil. Their eyes are evil. And I'll be looking at them trying real hard to see that. And it's like, nope, just looks like some dude. But the thing is I don't have that connection with that person, that terrible connection where they took someone you love and are connected to and just screw them all up, like end them. I don't know what that feels like, and I think it does feel like something. Like we may not think so, even though, but I mean, we may not think so, but if we spend so much time dwelling on the person, even if we don't know who they are, like even if we don't consciously know their name, subconsciously, we can connect with them energetically because we know exactly who we mean that did something to our person. And that forms a link. So they see them, I think, in a different light, and understandably, that's evil. But all of that, what I said, like we all can agree, I think, that we call that evil. But there's like a lot of people out there, like the Warrens, for instance. They're dead now, but you would know them from ghost shows where you could maybe actually see them themselves, like actually in a show performing their work. And their whole thing was, there's homes and places that are haunted that, you know, like homes people live in, so then they have to deal with this every day, and it gives you bad dreams and it makes you do terrible things, like in the Amityville house, which the Warrens were known for investigating, and I'm not sure what all they did there. If you like really like dig into their whole history, they're there and they definitely locate things and define what they are, and they came up with some techniques. But at the Amity house, they were there and they helped the family as much as they could, but they didn't like rid the home of the evil. They just sort of identified it. And so their thing was, people needed to know that it was real. And it is. I mean, I've lived in a house where the people I lived with said it was a demon. I have my doubts for a number of reasons, but I'm not going to talk about that in this portion. I want to talk about it in the third portion. But here, I want to talk about how we perceive evil. So there was definitely something in those houses you see in the shows that the Warrens talked about, and there's definitely something going on where I lived. But there's another sort of school of thought about it, and it's that the evil exists because we individually and collectively have agreed that that's what it is. Like, we've all decided that that's the case. Like, this thing happens, that's evil. So, but I wonder about the people that never experience that. Like, they never run across a demon. They never end up in a haunted house. They just don't have the experiences. And I'm talking about people who are not close to the idea. It just hasn't happened to them. And so that makes me think that we draw it to ourselves. And all of that I just said, like about the people disarticulating other people and it being so terrible and the depravities we perform on each other, that is all something that is a collective agreement. And so I don't know, I haven't been thinking about it very long, but maybe it'll come to me why these things happen to some people and to some people they don't, because it's just hard to figure out. I never doubted it, but I didn't go looking for it. Like, I always believed in ghosts. I always believed in things that we would call, well, I can just call them unusual. Excuse me. But I think that what evil is what we end up making it. You know, I mean, if we can give ourselves a boost by like a self-affirmation, then we can also take ourselves to really dark, down places. And you know that's true. You know you can get into a state of mind and just go low and feel blue and crappy and shitty. And again, feeding ground for evil. That's what I think. I think that if it exists around us, it's because we sort of allow it to. We invite it to, you could say. That's probably going to be something that people are not going to want to hear, but it's just my opinion, not the end of the world. Take it or leave it. Like, before I started doing this, I don't know, if you've watched my other videos, you will notice that my board looks kind of different. Now, this is the third time I did this, so I didn't do too bad on tries, but I know that there's stuff going on with Saturn that if your astrology is in the position where it can affect it negatively, it does. I guess I have something going on because I was just having a hard time. My bulletin board basically fell apart. I couldn't get it to sit anywhere. My other microphone wasn't working. I don't know if this one is. We'll see, won't we? I wanted to use my new phone. Guess what? It does not have a jack for a microphone or an earphone. Like, what? I got it all set up. I mean, it's a whole thing. Like, with the leak in the bathroom and, like, the aftermath in there, I still have to... all these things were, like, jumping in my way, trying to make me not be able to do this. And I was like, you know what? I worked too hard on this, and it took me too long to figure out how to, like, show you the result of what I was thinking about, which was evil 3 ways. Oh, I should put that on there. I'll put it in the information box. But I just was like, my life can't stop every time there's a retrograde, because there's just so many going on right now, and they go on for so long. It's like, what are you supposed to do? Just roll over and die? No, life has to go on. So, I tell you though, the mood I was in before I finally got set up and got started, I know this is hella dark. This is not what I wanted, but I'm not able to fix it. I tried, believe me. So, evil can be overcome. It doesn't have to get you if you don't want to let it. You actually do have control in the matter, ghost or demon or whatever. If you can stand your ground and not succumb to fear, you're going to be in a good place. And I think that's part of the way we should think about evil. Like, we shouldn't think of ourselves as just victims and it's going to get us and it's so scary. Yeah, go ahead and dream up stuff for it to come back and make real for you. I think that's how it works. So, but like the place I stayed in, I plan to do a more detailed piece on that, but it's like I went in there and for one thing, nobody told me right away, which I think is a bad idea. I think if you know there's something going on and there's things to be avoided to not piss it off, you should definitely tell the new person, because apparently I went in there and did immediately the wrong thing, went into the entity's territory like it was nothing, because to me it was just a bathroom. It was like nothing. But yeah, that was an experience, and I can't. None of the things happened that I was told about this thing that it had done, but I knew that it had power that I don't have. I knew that also, and this was before the advent. Like, there were ghost shows. There was like Leonard Nimoy's in search of, but we didn't have like the capacity to look at every video we ever wanted to. There was no internet then. We weren't even near it. It was like the 80s. But at the time, I noticed this and I really didn't think much of it, but there were shows to see. I'm getting ahead of myself. So like there was In Search Of, and there was like other shows, but I didn't know that they existed because I didn't, like that place, we didn't have cable. And my life at the time, I wasn't always home in the evening to watch a show. I was like out at a gig playing or watching or roading or, whatever I was doing, but I wasn't, or working like my regular hump job, sometimes in the day, sometimes in the night, but I always had to have like the job too, because the gig work just didn't pay off the bills. But for various reasons, I didn't see a lot of this stuff until much later, like 10, 15 years later. So the information was out there. I don't know if I got it by air osmosis or what, but I remember being in this place and seeing some weird shit, and I knew what it was. Like, you probably have watched a ghost show and seen people talk about, like, black... Seriously? See, this is what I've been having to put up with. Duct tape that then wants to stick to me like everything, but nothing else. So on the ghost shows, you'll certainly have heard someone talking about black, smoky, lacy looking stuff, like on the walls or in the ceiling or in the air. Saw that. And that was like my first experience consciously of it. And I just remember looking at it and thinking, oh no, I know what you're doing. Because right when I noticed it, I had been thinking about one of the people in the room, and I was not happy with them. Just like I'm not happy with this freaking thing. So anyway, I guess I just have to hold it now. So anyway, I was looking at that stuff and I was like, oh no, I know what you're doing. Don't be using my pissed off at them to do your thing. And I remember at the time thinking, what are you talking about? Like, what? Like, really? I was like, what are you saying? Who are you? It was just strange. It was just unusual. And then after I lived there, because so many unusual, weird things had happened that scared me, I was afraid to even talk about it. And yeah, like I would even move from LA to San Francisco and be like, oh, it's too close still, can't talk about it. But it was after I'd been in the Pacific Northwest for a while that I began to talk about it more. And then also, in the interim of all of that, God, this thing is pissing me off. Jeez. In the interim of all that time that I was talking about, when I got here north and I got really sick, I was able to sit around a lot and watch a bunch of television. And then gradually, I got to watch all of the stuff and get the information. And I learned that, like, that's what they do. They feed on your anger. They feed on your resentment. And then they use that against you and turn people on each other and all this irritating, annoying shit. Like, evil is a stupid little immature pest. Like, go find something constructive to do. Okay, I can't see a damn thing now. So, it's just hard to say, like, you know, which world you have a foot in, and then to, like, maintain, like, a sort of balance that way. It's crazy. That's the best I can describe it. It's a crazy way to feel. It's a crazy way to be. But I think it's crazier when you don't have a perception of that type of thing happening, and you're just all wild all over the place, and bad things happen and good things happen, and you have no clue why, because you don't know how to, I don't know, comprehend, like, what's happening to us and why. And it's hard because you will be connected to a whole bunch of people that you don't know, that you don't realize you're connected to energetically. That's some crazy stuff. That's the other part of having your feet in two worlds. So, yeah, evil is definitely, like, something crazy to think about. But then there's, like, other stuff. Like, I remember being, like, a little kid, or, well, yeah, like, I can think of at least, well, more than one instance where I was a little kid and I said or did something and had some elder be like, "Oh, you're evil, girl, or stop acting evil. Don't look at me evil like that." Maybe don't just fling that around like it's nothing. There's a whole bunch of other words that would be completely operative for a bratty child other than evil, for Christ's sake. Like, why would you put that on a kid? Again, just, we don't really know what we're doing. So, okay, oh my, I've gone really long. Okay, to finish up here, I was just, like, I was having problems getting started. Things were breaking down, things were breaking, and I did lose it for a while and, like, lose my temper and holler and throw a few things, but I don't feel bad because I threw something that was already freaking broken. I just finished it. Anyway, I got through it. That is the point. So you can go on, even if there's retrogrades, even if there's evil in your life. I think it's just really perception is a big part of dealing with it and your life. God, that's irritating. I hate you. Anyway, that is pretty much what I wanted to say in this portion. Thank you and good night.